That is why he was called As-Siddiq. So this shows that the level of people's affirmation of the truth is at different levels. Another point he mentions is that detailed knowledge of a matter adds levels of perception and certainty that summarized knowledge does not. When you see the details of a certain matter, it increases your iman. It increases your certainty opposed to when you just have a summarized knowledge of that matter. One example that he mentions is the story of Prophet Musa alayhi salam with his people who began to worship the golden calf. When he was with Allah Azza wa Jal in the mountain, Allah Azza wa Jal told him that your people have begun to worship this calf. Your people, they have left what you have taught them, and now they are worshipping this golden calf. Musa alayhi salam, he believed in this, and he immediately, when Allah Azza wa Jal told him, he had tasdeeq and he affirmed that. But later on, Allah Azza wa Jal mentions in the Quran that when he went down to his people and when he saw it with his own eyes, when he saw what his people were doing with his own eyes, he threw away the tablets that Allah Azza wa Jal had given him. He threw them on the ground, and his rage skyrocketed and erupted. And when he saw this, as the Prophet ﷺ mentioned in one narration, that seeing a matter is different from a person just believing it. So when the person saw that, their iman, when he saw this, his iman increased and skyrocketed, as opposed to when he was with Allah Azza wa Jal. And imagine, Allah Azza wa Jal was telling him about this, but yet he did not throw the scrolls down, he did not throw the tablets down. But once he saw his own people doing it, this changed his perception and his understanding of that matter. Number 5, a belief that causes one to act upon it is necessarily stronger than a belief that does not cause any action. This is something very clear. A belief that causes a person to act is definitely different than someone who has belief but they are not acting as much as the first person. And also the outward actions vary widely between the people. People who perform tahajjud at night, they have a different level of iman than those who do not. People who recite more Quran, people who are doing more actions, this clearly shows that their iman is at a different level than those who do not do those actions. And he mentions some other things as well that we will leave for now. But now, inshallah ta'ala, before I close for tonight, inshallah ta'ala, I'd like to mention the levels of iman that we have been referring to over and over again. The 3 levels of iman. The first of these levels, and you could look at it as a bottom level, it is the bare minimum of iman. The bare minimum of iman is the lowest level beneath which is kufr, beneath which is disbelief. This is also called al-iman al-mujmal or mutlaqul iman. These are different terms that have been given. The definition of this bare minimum of iman beneath which a person is a disbeliever, the bare minimum level of iman is embodied in the kalima itself, in the shahada of la ilaha illallah, believing that Allah and His Messenger ﷺ are truthful in all that they say, and then wishing and attempting to implement their commands, even if it is a minimal attempt. So the definition of the bare minimum level of iman is where a person believes in the shahada and they wish and they make the attempt, even if it is a minimal attempt, to practice what Allah Azza wa Jalla is telling them. The controversy over what exactly that bare minimum of actions is, that is another discussion, which inshallah, if Allah wills, we will see if we can discuss it at another time. The benefits of this is that the person who has this level, they will, in the hereafter, the person will be saved from eternally remaining in Jahannam. The person, they are guaranteed an eventual entrance to paradise, and this person who had this level of iman, he will be protected from falling into the fire eternally, and he will be granted an eventual entrance into paradise. I know the time is short, so inshallah ta'ala, I'd just like everyone to just see one particular thing before we end, inshallah ta'ala, which has basically been highlighted on this chart, inshallah ta'ala. So basically, in this chart, we have shown that there is a bare minimum level of iman, which is beyond which is kufr and disbelief. And as we said, this is signified in a person saying the shahada of la ilaha illallah, and then after that, attempting to at least do some good deeds or some acts of worship, The discussion of what is exactly that bare minimum, that is another topic. Some have mentioned it to be the salah, and some have mentioned it to be the salah and zakah as well. After this, as you can see, there is a minimal required level of iman by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is also called al-iman al-wajib, or al-iman al-kamil al-wajib. The definition of this level, which is at a higher level, is a person performing the 5 pillars of Islam, performing the salah, the zakat, the sawm and the hajj. And when a person fulfills these pillars and avoids the major sins, the muharramat, then he is above and he is at that minimal required level of iman. This is basically what Allah wants from us. Allah wants us to be at this level, that we perform the 5 obligations, the 5 pillars of Islam, and we avoid the major sins. And a person who does this, who is at this level, he is a mu'min. And as you can see here on the side, a person is a Muslim all the way from here and continuing upwards. So a person could be a Muslim, but yet he is right above this bare minimum of iman. And even if he commits major sins, then the person is considered a fasiq, although they're still a Muslim. And after that, there is the perfection of iman. The perfection of iman, which is at the top level. This is also called al-iman al-kamil al-mustahab. The definition of this, there is actually no precise definition that separates this level from the next. But basically, at this level, a person begins to do more than the minimal required. A person begins to do the adhkar, he begins to perform the nawafil, he begins to fast voluntarily, he begins to do extra good deeds. And he continues to do this. And by the way, one thing I should mention is that when a person begins to increase in doing their good deeds, you're going to reach a certain point where you can't add anything else to what you are doing. In other words, you are doing every type of voluntary deed. You can't really add any more deeds. How then does a person ascend from this level to the level of ihsan? This is basically a matter of quality over quantity. How do you upgrade from iman to ihsan? This is where a person no longer is just doing the deeds, but in fact, they reach a level, as the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, ihsan is where a person worships Allah Azza wa Jal as though he is seeing Allah Azza wa Jal. And if he does not realize that, he recognizes that Allah Azza wa Jal is seeing him. And here, to reach the level of ihsan, it is not really a matter of doing more. It is not a matter of doing more than once you are doing all the voluntary deeds. But now, a person, even their worldly deeds, even when they do their normal, regular daily activities, it all becomes the same to them. Their religious deeds and their worldly deeds. If you like, they're secular and they're religious. There is no distinction between the deen and dunya. Everything that they do, everything they do in this life, they are conscious of Allah Azza wa Jal 24/7, that He is watching them. And this is the level of ihsan where a person reaches the level of being a muhsin. And inshallah ta'ala, because we're out of time, inshallah, we're going to stop here. But Allah willing, if Allah Azza wa Jal wills and we have another opportunity, we'll talk more about the levels of iman and also the evidences for these different levels. And we will also talk about what exactly that minimal level of iman is, and what is the bare minimum of actions that a person must do beyond which is kufr. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll talk about this and some more topics as well. Jazakumullahu khairan wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallama tasliman kathira. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.